3D animal sculptures. For this project, you will get a piece of cardboard and 2 egg cartons. And with those egg cartons, you'll get to make some decisions. Like one of the decisions is, do you want to do 2 animals? Maybe if you do 2 animals, you might want it to be horizontal, or do you want to do 1 animal? And if you do 1 animal, you might want it to be vertical. Now, I am going to make this into a little cat. So I am going through and I am cutting off parts of the edges and I'm making the cat ears. Now, I am one of those people that I'm okay if I don't draw it first and if I just cut it. But if you're one of those people who needs to draw it first and then do the cutting, you can totally do that. So just draw on the egg carton wherever you think the ears should be so that you can make your cuts correctly. Now, if you're cutting and you accidentally cut part of it off, no big deal. We can glue that back on later when we do some hot glue later in this entire project. So no worries if you accidentally cut something off. So once you cut the pieces, you might want to keep some of them because you might want to make other things out of them. I'm bending back the ears and then I'm trying to figure out where is it going to go. So if I had 1 animal, maybe I want to do it like this. But then if I want to change it, then I was thinking I would just make it horizontal. So now I'm going to work on the ears for my rabbit. So I'm going to cut carefully. And once again, I didn't draw this time, but it's totally cool if you draw it first and then cut it out because you know how you learn best. And so if that's the way that you can do it best, then do it that way. So now we're going to work on the background. Now I took both of my egg cartons off and I'm looking through my paintbrushes. I'm trying to figure out which one would be best. I decided it would be the red one because it's a little more flat and I just got it a little bit wet. I am going to have yellow for my background and purple for my edges because remember we're talking about complementary colors. So whatever your background is, then your edges need to be the complementary color to that. So on the color wheel, yellow is across from purple or violet. So you can see I've kind of skipped ahead. I'm finishing out the yellow part. Now to clean this, I'm going to put it in the bucket of water, swish it around for a while, and then a lot of my paint kind of got on the edges a little bit, so I'm kind of scraping some of it off, and then I'm going to wipe it onto that sponge. That helps clean the brush the rest of the way, and then I can just set it down. Now I'm getting a brush and I'm going to do the edges. So I'm doing purple because that's the complementary color to yellow. So I'm putting my edges on here, and in just a second it's going to skip ahead to the very end of the border. Once again, when I'm done, I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to try and get all the paint off of it, and then I'm going to wipe it onto the sponge so that I can use it again or someone else at my table can use it as well. Okay, so now we're going to actually paint your little animals, or at least their head and their snout. Now, I was at home when I was making this video, and I didn't have a messy mat. But at school, I would definitely get a messy mat for this because sometimes it gets kind of messy, especially when you're trying to get the cute little head off of your fingers. So I am going to paint my cat orange. If you have a cat, you can paint it whatever color you want. But I'm going to paint mine orange, and then this is going to skip ahead to the end. And if you notice, to kind of hold it better, I'm putting my fingers on the inside of it and kind of holding it that way because to do the front of his mouth was a little tricky otherwise. Then I'm going to set this aside and then I'm going to paint my rabbit. Now I decided to do mine brown. Now remember, these are kind of like cartoon animals, so it's okay if they're crazy colors. So I'm setting these aside. Gonna rinse out my brush. I'm gonna do it on the sponge again so that I can clean that well and be ready for the next step. I decided that it would be fun to add little bow ties to my cat and my bunny. I was thinking one might wear it like in the front, and then one might have like a bow in their hair or their fur. And so I used the little scraps that I had, and I cut out a little bow tie, and I decided that I would paint them. All right, so on this day, we're going to hot glue your animals to your background. I will do the hot gluing, but you will bring it to me, and you have to kind of decide where do you want the things to be. So I'll take my hot glue and I'll go like on their ears and on the little tiny edges. And remember, if you accidentally cut off an ear or something, just bring them to me. I will glue them in the right spots for you, and then we'll just go on to the next part. Once they're hot glued on, then you get to go back and do the fun part of drawing their bodies. Now my head kind of got in the way on this video, but I think you'll be able to see it in just a little bit. So I decided to do my cat first. I kind of drew the body on that, and then I'm going to go through and do the rabbit. And I'll show you a close-up of this in just a little bit so you can see it a little bit more closely. After I did the drawing, then I painted them. So I painted their clothes, I painted a neck, I painted eyes and the inside of their ears, because I'm getting ready for all of that to dry so I can add on details with markers. Okay, now everything is dry, and now I can use the ultra fine Sharpie markers. I can add lots of details to my cool sculpture. So I added like noses and mouths and inside of eyes and details on their clothes and even on the edges. Just make it look super cute. So add lots of details with the markers and make it beautiful. I can't wait to see your projects.